Business Spotlight, brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.
And this is Business Spotlight in partnership with Cross Rhythm City Radio and Baba Baboon. Joining me in the studio this week, we've got the incredible John Webbe from Emmaus, North Staffs. Hello, John.
Hiya, Sonya. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good actually, yeah.
Good. Well, thank you for coming into the studio here at Cross Rhythms. Now, Emmaus North Staffs, you're a charity. You are based in Hanley. Do you want to just give the listeners a little bit of a background into what the charity does first?
Sure, yeah. So Emmaus North Staffs is one of about over 400 Emmaus charities around the world. And we're one of 30 odd in the UK, largely focused at supporting the most vulnerable people in the areas where each of the Emmauses are based. Strong focus on homelessness in the UK, and supporting people who are suffering from furniture poverty, for example, and needing experience, volunteering to get them back into the workplace to build up confidence, and trying to create a better future for people.
And you mentioned there furniture poverty. In, the North Staffs area and where you are located and the people that you support, the local people, local families, how rife is that around this area?
It's massive, and vast majority of people listening to this probably have never heard of the phrase furniture poverty, because nobody talks about it. It's not a government priority. Everyone knows about fuel poverty and food poverty and clothes poverty, whatever, but nobody talks about furniture poverty. But it is massive. Thousands and thousands of people in North Staffs haven't got key bits of furniture, whether it's a sofa or a fridge freezer, beds to sleep in, stuff like that. But nobody knows because it's behind closed doors, and you'll have a lot of people in the private rented sector and social housing sector who will get a lovely property. They've got a roof over their head. They'll get the keys. They'll walk in. They've got no furniture to bring with them, and they absolutely haven't got the money to go and kit out a house because it costs a lot of money. Even second-hand, you're still talking hundreds of pounds. And if you're on benefits and you're living on that edge of poverty yourself, who's got hundreds and hundreds of pounds to buy furniture? You just haven't.
And I can imagine, like you say, if you've been given or, you've gone into a new property, yeah, great. But if you haven't, like you mentioned, got even a bed to go to sleep in at night or a sofa to sit on, I can't imagine what that must be like. I mean, what kind of feedback do you get when you're supporting, local residents?
So, that must be heartbreaking when people get that key to that new home and they can't create it. It's just a house. They can't make it into a home because they can't put curtains on the walls and carpets on the floor and, a sofa there. And I've never been through that either. I've never had that feeling of coming home from college or work or whatever and walking into an empty room and thinking, well, where can I sit? How can I relax? Where can I get some fresh food from when I haven't got a fridge? Or where am I going to sleep? I'll just have a sleeping bed a sleeping mat on the floor or something like that. It's just horrible. So we do get some amazing feedback. We support 700 to 800 families every year, 700 to 800 households every year with furniture. And when people get that, it's life-changing if they can actually get a decent night's sleep and they can come home and they can relax after a hard day of work or whatever people are doing. We regularly get people who break down in tears because they're that happy that someone has helped them. That kind of feedback is amazing.
And as the charity, I'm aware you do have, a warehouse and a charity shop in Hanley. Now, just moving on from what we've just said about what the charity does and everything, but having a warehouse and a shop as well, a charity is really, it's running a business, isn't it?
It is, absolutely, yeah. So every charity in the country has to be a business as well. We all have to do accounts. We all have to be profitable. Although in the charity world, you don't call it profit, you call it surplus, as if profit's a dirty word, but it's not. If you don't cover your expenditure and have some money to keep growing and developing, then you're going to die just like any other business would. Absolutely do. We all have to do finance. We have to do PR and HR and all those things that every other business has to do. We're just a socially minded business is another way of looking at it.
It is, like you say, like a business, making that awareness not just about what you do but what you stand for. It's almost a brand. You're growing a brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Emmaus is a strong brand across the world, and then it might be a name which people don't know locally, because we've only been around 7 years, and so it takes a long time for things to filter through, and also people probably can't pronounce the word when they say it. So when I say Emmaus, they might pronounce it completely different because it is a strange word. But once you do know how to pronounce it, then hopefully that helps the brand awareness a little bit. And but yeah, absolutely growing a brand and growing a business, and hopefully having a sustainable future.
And then on the other side, businesses working with charities. Now, I believe you know, I've seen various things where you've been supported by various local businesses in different ways, but for a business to support a charity, I mean, what are the actual benefits there? Instead of just, you know, not just giving back, but what are the actual benefits for supporting charities?
So, I mean, the giving back bit is huge, obviously, and it's very therapeutic. Is that the right word? Really, to give back, because when you give back, it does light a little spark in your heart, hopefully, and when you give back, generally you get something back as well. You get that side, and it all goes around in a big fat circle. But from a business point of view, supporting a charity, promoting a charity, adopting a charity for a year, for example. Yeah. A lot of bigger businesses will have a charity of the year, and it's good for those businesses who are maybe listening to think about those ones which aren't your standard ones which everyone goes to. No disrespect to like Dougie Mack and everything else, but loads and loads of people support the bigger charities, and very, very few come knocking on our door. And we've only had a couple of businesses have come to support us in the last year or so, through like volunteering days and things like that. We've had a few businesses support us with our Beds for Kids project, which we'll probably come on to later on. So we've probably had about maybe a dozen businesses have donated some money to us to support local children.
But that upskilling as well, you know, from a business, you know, you've mentioned like the various staff and what you do as a charity as well. You're providing workshops down there. So say a business had got some spare time or their staff had got some, you know, where they're thinking our staff have got spare time, we could perhaps send them out into the community or to a charity. How would that process work?
So we've had a couple of businesses do this with us, and I've got another 2 businesses lined up over the summer to do it with us as well. The best thing is get in touch. We discuss what we do, what they're interested in, and there's always a match. Whether it's just helping do some basic things like painting and decorating, or coming in and helping move things around. We had a business down in Stone who came in and brought all their apprentices, an engineering company, brought in, I think, about 12 apprentices who literally started the week before, and they laid all the flooring in our office. There's so many things we don't have capacity to do. Yeah. So there's loads and loads of things to do.
So these are supposed, you call these like volunteer days, don't you? Yeah, you call these like volunteer days. So if somebody, even on the other side then, was even volunteering under the charity banner, under yourselves, and not from another organisation, and they're upskilling and they're learning maybe even a trade and anything like that, I suppose, am I right in saying having those relationships as well with more local businesses of all different sectors, you could potentially signpoint someone in a way to say there could be an employment opportunity there if they've learned the right skills? No,
without a doubt. And we've actually benefited from that ourselves, because we've taken on, I think over the last few years, probably about 10 volunteers have turned into paid members of staff and then moved on to do other things. And so, yeah, I think we've only got one of them actually still with the team at the moment, which is the chap who runs our eBay shop, which we've got a full-time eBay person guy, and he was originally a volunteer, and we created that post for him, and it pays its way more than enough with the amount of money we generate through eBay. And so, yeah, and other people have become volunteers and moved on, become a member of staff, and then moved on to other jobs, which is fantastic. But absolutely, then we can actually signpost businesses as well. So when a business does, say, get involved in our charity, gets to know us, gets to know the staff, gets to know some of the volunteers, if they've got an opportunity, we can get that person trained up towards that opportunity, or work together and somehow get that person into, even if it's a job interview, it's a start, and maybe a job trial or something like that to see how they fit it in. So yeah, things like that, absolutely, that'd be brilliant to do.
I'm just going to bring you back to the eBay there as well, like you mentioned, because when we're talking about charities sort of almost operating in certain ways, in similar ways to businesses, I mean, 10, 15 years ago, John, would you have imagined, I know you weren't exactly, I don't think, with Emmaus then, I don't think, but would you have imagined, like, charities, again, they're adapting just like a business does and using technology and using other ways to not only, again, raise that awareness, but to, raise funds which go back into the charity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we started doing eBay, I think about 3 years ago. And obviously that's where retail is moving, increasingly online. Vast majority of our trade is not online, but that's one thing we might need to look at. Although it's very hard to put lots of second-hand things online because it changes. You're literally updating it every half hour. It's a lot of work. But from an eBay point of view, we put, I guess, the more sought after items, more higher value furniture items get donated to us, or the amount of stuff you sell on eBay is crazy. But that opens us up to the whole world.
Yeah.
And so we do ship things through eBay's global shipping thing to people all over the world.
Wow.
As well as all over the UK. And some of the bigger items of furniture have gone all over the UK, from Scotland all the way down to Norfolk, down to Cornwall, whether they send a courier or we arrange shipping out that way. But yeah, it opens us up to a much, much bigger market than just the North Staffordshire community.
And you mentioned there people donating, so to the shop and the warehouse in Hanley, then people not only can they donate, but can they actually come in and have a look around the warehouse as well as the shop? Or?
Yeah, both premises are open Monday to Saturday, and we took over what was Furniture Mine. We took that over coming up to 7 years ago now, and we've rebranded that into Emmaus. So people will still phone up every single day and ask for Furniture Mine, and that will carry on probably for years. And so, but that brought a legacy with it, that Furniture Mine wasn't open to the public for about 20 years of its history, and so that a legacy still exists now as well, which is one reason for dropping the name. It's to rebrand and restart, and hopefully people would realise that we are open to the public, because a lot of people still think that we're not, because we had that Furniture Mine history. But yeah, we're open to public 6 days a week, both places, anytime. Come in, have a look.
Come in and say hello to John.
Yeah.
And going forward then, John, I mean, things going on now perhaps, again, whether it's, businesses wanting to contact you for the things that you've mentioned, whether it's volunteer days or anything like that, but building those relationships. But also for the general public, I mean, how does the public support a charity as well? Is it similar ways? Is it through fundraisers? You mentioned the Beds for Kids campaign. I mean, how does that work? How do they...
So, I mean, the most basic way of supporting us is by donating, because every single thing we get in goes into the shop or the warehouse. So it'll either go through sales to generate money, or we will work with local housing partners to provide furniture and appliances for people who can't afford to pay themselves. So everything gets reused and gets reused locally and then goes somewhere else to a new home. So that's the most basic thing, and that's the most important thing, is donating, because we need hundreds of thousands of pounds to keep the doors open, $500 million a year to keep the doors open, and we'd have to generate all that through what people donate to us, because we don't get any government funding, we don't get any funding from local authorities or anyone else. Everything is generated by what we do. But then, yeah, absolutely. Then there's other fundraisers as well. It's a relatively new thing we're doing. We only probably had the first fundraisers late last year, which we did, and you did it with us. A 10k run round Alton Towers.
Don't remind me.
Was it 8 of us? I think did it.
A team of 8. We did. Yeah.
And we all did it. We all did that 10k round Alton Towers, which was good fun. And we raised £4,000 or £5,000 through that thing, which is fantastic. And that all went to Beds for Kids. Yeah. That all went down that route, which is fantastic. So, yeah, and then other people are doing fundraisers as well. So there are other ways, and you can donate cash through our website as well. It rarely happens, but if people do want to do that, there's a donation link on the website.
And the Beds for Kids, I mean, when was that launched, and why was that launched?
Yeah. So Beds for Kids is something I've had in my head for a while, same as house clearances, which were just launched this year. Maybe we'll come on to that. But I've had an idea around beds for kids for a good few years, but it just took a little bit of time to get going. And the main reason for it is that there's sadly thousands of children in North Staffordshire who don't have their own bed to sleep in at night. And so they might be sleeping in a bed, they might be sharing with siblings. We do get families come in where the entire family's sleeping in a single bed, in a double bed, for example, like mum, dad and several kids all in one bed together every night. Or the kids might be sleeping on a mattress on the floor or on the sofa. But that kind of thing is heartbreaking, because those children, at the most crucial time in their life in terms of their physical and mental development and their education, which sets their entire foundation for life, if they're not getting a decent night's sleep, it absolutely decimates their education. It'll seriously affect their development into a bigger human, and if their education is affected and they can never reach their potential as a young person, that could have lifelong impacts. And that's not just on them, that's an economic impact as well if that person's not achieving their potential. So it affects the country as well as them as a person. So to have children not having their own bed is just heartbreaking. So we started doing some work probably in about 2022. And we got some local businesses to support us, and we delivered brand new bed packs out to local children. So these are brand new bed packs. So it's given a child a brand new bed, mattress, all the bedding, the pillows, the whole lot, a brand new bed to go, as well as and some of we've got 2 funding streams, and one of them also provides pajamas as well.
Right.
And so literally a brand new bed and pajamas to go. So we started doing it in 2022, did a little bit more in 2023. But then with the fundraiser we just mentioned at Alton Towers, that generated some money, £4,000-5,000, whatever it was, and then that enabled us to buy some brand new bed packs for local children. And then we set up a partnership with a charity based over in Leeds called Zarak, who have had loads of amazing publicity because of the work they do in the West Yorkshire area. They've had national publicity on the BBC, Breakfast a couple of times, Guardian, Independent, the whole lot really. So people want to have a search for them and the work they do. So we've then, in December, just last year, we became their regional hub partner for North Staffordshire. So Zarak support us. They provide all the beds, the bedding, the whole lot to us, and then we deliver it out to local children. And that works through referrals from schools. So the schools, the school support workers or the whatever staff they've got, and if they identify a child or family who are struggling with bed poverty in their school, they send a referral through to us via Zarak, and we deliver it out within as fast as we can.
Okay, so going forward then, John, before you go, we've mentioned obviously the campaigns, we've mentioned how the similarities between how a charity runs, get that brand awareness out there, how you can work, collaborate with other businesses, volunteer days, upskilling, house clearances, you name it. There's so much Emmaus North staff, and what you're saying, do in this local area. What's happening in the next 12 months?
We've had some funding from the City Council, from 20 local councillors, submitted funding through their ward budget to us in March, and that generated us enough funding to deliver well over 100 beds to local children in the first 4 months of this year. So I set a target for myself to achieve 200 brand new beds out to local children by the end of 2024, and so to do that in the first 4 months, so maybe we can hit maybe 300 by the end of the year, and so that's 300 children's lives have been transformed, will have been transformed by the end of this year, with brand new bed packs, which is amazing. So the more we can do that, and then any businesses want to support that, a couple of £100 buys a brand new bed pack for a child, the whole lot, which is very little money to transform a child's life. In terms of things happening in the future, so we have got relocation plans. Can't really talk about it now, but it will be live in the public domain hopefully in the next month or so. And so we've got big plans to move again. We only moved 2 years ago, and it's incredibly painful moving a massive furniture warehouse. It's not a pleasant thing at all. So we're going to hopefully move to a big building, still in Hanley, to create an absolutely huge charity warehouse and charity shop.
And is the Lord Mayor the new Lord Mayor from Stoke-on-Trent. Did I not see something about that somewhere?
Yeah, so the new Lord Mayor who got sworn in, is that the right phrase? Got sworn in as the new Lord Mayor just last week.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of towards the end of May, is Councillor Lynn Sharp, who covers Fenton. And she's chosen 2 charities to be her charities of the year. So one of them is Period Power, a small volunteer-run charity who help women and girls who are suffering with period poverty, and then ourselves as a second charity. And so we've already had one fundraiser, which was just on Saturday afternoon at Titanic Brewery, which was quite interesting, and you were there as well. And so we had a really good time, because Councillor Lynn Sharp is an absolute force for nature. She's amazing, whirlwind, non-stop. How on earth she gets the energy, I don't know, because it's exhausting trying to keep up with her. And so we'll be one of her 2 charities for the next year.
Now, how does that, just going on to that, how... To know that you were being chosen as one of the charities for the new Lord Mayor for the next year, and like there could be all sorts of exciting things planned happening. I mean, how does that feel, John? And what's it like for Emmaus North Staffs?
So no, it feels brilliant actually, and Lynn chose us purely on the back of the Beds for Kids work we do, which really has only really started. Like I said, might have been a little work in 22, 23, but it's really only kicked off big time this year. And so we've already supported several families in Lynn's patch. And so when I told her about that, and she was really impressed and really liked the idea, so she's chosen us on the back of that. So it's a huge honour. It's really good to be chosen, and hopefully it will raise our profile up there. And as we raise our profile, we get more businesses supporting, more public supporting us, to come and donate and to shop with us as well, because it's not just donating things. People need to come and buy the things as well. And so all that, it can only be a good thing.
Brilliant. John Webbe, thank you so much for coming into the studio. That's John Webbe from Emmaus North Staffs here on Business Spotlight, which is in partnership with Cross Rhythm City Radio and Baba Baboon.
Business Spotlight, shining a light on our local business community. Brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.